Hey, everybody, we are live. We're back again for Surviving Quarantine by Spreading Life. And I am here with actually one of my old time friends. We used to do some marketing together back in the day, per se. And I'll say that Joe or JK is what he goes by as well. But you've always been somebody that has been just fun. And you've always been somebody that has just had such a positive and go-getter attitude that I love and I appreciate. And so I also appreciate you coming on. So with that, let's get started. Introduce yourself.
Well, thank you, Emily. I appreciate it. This is such a true honor to get on here and to be able to speak with you for a few minutes. So a little bit about me. I mean, background was in marketing before the thing we're going through right now. Actually, in the front lines right now, working with the Amazon Flex to help them with their deliveries, and at the grocery stores doing some restock and helping with moral support because they're so overwhelmed and underemployed at this point. Traveled to about 44 states. Really just the kind of guy who is defining who he is every single day and living the life, as we say, the customized life. And definitely want to put fun into it because all the sadness and the negative, it's all taken. So everybody else is taking it. I figured I'd just go a different route. So.
And I love that. That makes me so happy. It's fun to watch you and get to see you through the years as you've developed as a person. And I want to talk specifically starting out. And before I start, remember everybody, leave your comments. If you got any questions or you see anything while we're talking that you're like, hey, I want to ask another question about, do that. That's why we're here for this. And then also tell us who's here. We want to say hey to you as well. But let's get started. What is it that you do specifically to have that customized life, and how could you help others to one, see the value in it, and then also possibly find it?
You know, it's I think if you want to put a label to what I do, let's just say I scout. So I don't do this on a massive scale. It's more of reaching individually, one at a time, people that I'm familiar with or people that I feel that might have some course of direction they want to change or go in life. So I scout out for people who want to make better decisions in pretty much two of the largest areas that affect decisions, which are relationships and finances. Not anything too crazy with investments into the future or anything relational that might be to the extreme one way or the other, but more on the other side, on the negative side. But really just making better decisions so that they could clearly see how they could customize and build their life. So I look for the people that can answer the question instead of what do you want to do when you grow up, or what do you want to do for the rest of your life, or who do you want to be? But it's more of how do you want to live for the rest of your life? Because if you're already born, it's more of rest of your life. So I just help people navigate through that, whether it's me personally or if it's me connecting others who could coach and mentor in those areas so people could learn how to address certain things and be able to make better decisions.
And I agree with that. And I think the thing is the relationship value and the connection. And for us, the Live Wise aspect is all about accountability, connection, and making life-changing results. So the importance of connection and something that is you would think would be about you, making your everyday life, making it ever better each day. It's actually also about others in turn. So let's talk about that for a minute, about the power of connections.
Wow. Connections, there's a book out there that John Maxwell wrote called Everyone Communicates, but Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. And you can go out there and be super positive woman, superwoman, super mom who has however many kids, or you could be super dude who can bench press 500 pounds and can save the world. But I'm learning, Emily, that connection isn't all about how awesome or how skilled you are. Connection's more about taking the next person and for them to see that they believe in themselves because you set the example just enough. You're just setting an example just enough as being a regular person who made some extraordinary decisions, and
Mhm.
that you've given the other person permission indirectly that they can think and say, I can actually do what this person does, or I can be what this person does in my own flavor. And
Yeah.
so that's how I believe connection works. Is it's all, can we relate on the same level? If I'm too high, then I can't relate to you.
Oh yeah. And it's making it. I think the point that you said is making it to your level. And Corey, I see you have your comment. Can y'all see me now? If not, we would just keep rolling with how it's going. You get to see Kevin's face. Sometimes. But with that, the connection and having, I like the part that you talked about John Maxwell. I really like his teachings, and I really like what he speaks on about making sure that it is a collective group. And what we say is oxytocin is that's what connection is for us. It's the building of trust and building relationship, which takes time. And so with that everyday approach, it is all about one day at a time. You didn't get where you are in a day, and you're not going to come back from where you were in a day. So let's talk about that for a minute. And specifically, like we were speaking on about millennials. What about millennials? They may need to know because this may be the first quote unquote crisis that they've ever went through.
Yes, it's funny. The generation of millennials is actually split. I don't know what the label per se is between the two. You've got those who the first half, born in 1983, 84 to about the 90s, where they actually went through, before all this, there was 2008, where there's a movie that's referenced called The Big Short that gives you the timeline of the market crashing that created the recession, or that um, got us to reset financially or economically. So
Mhm.
this is where gas was over $4 a gallon, and you just couldn't find work if you we didn't have social media. So you have that half. Then you have the other half who's never been through this. They were actually children in the household where their parents, so they got to feel the brunt from their parents, but not necessarily going through it themselves. So there's a difference between those two perspectives. So they didn't really have responsibilities. So you have two different types of people. One of the biggest things that I had to learn as the older millennial generation going through 2008 to about, I think it was like 2 years that we went through this, was to have patience. And
Mhm.
so to trust in the fact that you might have to throw the time clock away. You can't just put a stopwatch and put a timer on and say, okay, when will this be over? When it's interesting because we're hearing about the what was supposed to be the 12th of this month of April now extended to the 30th of April. I think it's so that uh, everybody else doesn't get scared or intimidated that, okay, because what might happen is it could turn very, I don't know if anarchy is the right word, but it can be a hell breaks loose type of situation if people don't sense control on the calendar. So, but I think first trusting in the process, but having patience, but definitely having trust that take it day by day, because we're used to forecasting Friday. We're used to forecasting our vacation 6 months from now. And so it's a different, and I have more grace with them and amongst ourselves being in the older generation of the millennials, not the older generations, but of that aspect, but definitely to have patience for sure.
Mhm. And I think that's a true one because I know that patience is something that I struggle with, and I like to have. I know that consistency is a flaw of mine. So, but process creation and management is a strength. And so for me, I've did all these processes to make sure that I could be efficient and make sure that I'm going to be consistent on certain things. And so with that, this like threw a whole loop in me. Like, and so for those people that are at that moment right now, what can they do to like pause and reflect? Because I know that you're really big on reflection, and I love your posts that you do, and it's a very reflective and open what we say is hot, open, humble, open, and transparent. And so speak on that and why it's important to stay that way and why do you do that? Because I like it, but
It's funny if you guys ever catch me on Instagram. I actually heard this from, gosh, I befriended someone who did very, very well, affected quite a bit of number of people, and not being labeled a pastor or an influencer. I mean, he was a pretty private guy, him and his wife, and but there was another guy who is a thought leader as well. They both mentioned about documenting your journey.
Mhm.
This whole situation, pandemic, whatever you want to call it, has actually caused us to pause because
Oh yeah.
we're so used to, Emily, you going so, and when I met you, you're like going 800 miles an hour. I'm like, gosh, this little one is moving like crazy. She's like an 8-year-old with, where's this energy coming from? Like, I'm just looking around like, what the heck's going on? So we're moving so fast because everything's so fast in this world. But something like this that's forced us to stay at home, the stay-at-home rule, or the almost martial law. It's for me to document my journey. It actually forces me to pause and to think of, okay, did I learn something today? Did I learn something recently? Did I listen to someone or have a conversation that brought me back to a reflection point? So I think what most people aren't ready for, what I wasn't ready for in 2008, was to actually pause. That's like the first step, is to stop. Is to take your mind and stop. Is to stop. To now say, okay, what can you do to get your mind clear? And so there are techniques to do that as well that I've got to listen to. But I don't know if that really answers it, because that's a pretty big
Oh yeah.
topic to discuss. I mean, so.
Well, let's go into a little bit more about that. What are some of your main techniques that you would advise others to do? I know everybody has their own individual thing, but what works for you? Because it may work for somebody else.
Gosh, it could, let's see, with my morning, I actually get up not even like 5 or 10 minutes before. So I heard this, and I actually realized that when you wake up, and not, and Emily, you being a mother, um, and for anybody that I know, it sucks to wake up early. I'm up at about 4 o'clock in the morning because at the grocery store they want us at 5 o'clock sometimes in the morning every single day except Sunday. And so when I get up, it's the 17 to 20 seconds that it's like that. You're trying to just shake it off because you're just tired, but you only need 17, 20 seconds to literally just get out of bed. But what I do, I actually try to like crab walk in my bed so I can sit up. And I usually have an inspirational thing to read, a quote or something. But before that, I actually take a bottle of water, and I literally chug about 3/4 of a bottle of water, because I need to make sure that the sluggishness doesn't keep carrying with me, because your cells are dry in your
Mhm.
body and they need to hydrate. So I do that. Two, I actually put on a podcast, but of a soft speaker. I don't need somebody yelling like a Gary Vaynerchuk or even a Joel Osteen. I mean, they're pretty loud because they speak in front of loud audiences. And so while I do that, I'll listen to a podcast, but it's gonna be it's very soft. Alan Watts, whatever it is, and I'll start reading. It could be a devotional from a spiritual based book, or it could be something I'm reading from John Maxwell. So when I do that, I go and do that. If I feel like I'm a little still nervous or I have a headache, I actually close my eyes and I think in a place where, okay, how's my brain feel? Or I'm like taking like stairs down my body, like, okay, how do my hands feel? How do my legs feel? How does my stomach feel? Okay, do I feel the skin of my, so I try to get myself to think outside of what my mundane
Mhm.
tasks would be, or if it's something fun to do. So I try to get my mind to focus on something else. Again, back to before, I try to find ways to get my mind clear. But if I can't, I try to think of opposite things, or I try to think of something that could be out of the box. Like, okay, how does the string feel from the shorts I'm wearing? I'm
Yeah.
waking up from bed. And so I try to get my mind on purpose. I'm intentional to think, what else could I think of that doesn't make sense, but gets my mind off of all the potential stress that starts the day, right?
Hmm. I love it. how you talked about the stare. I've never thought of it that way, but that's cool. Like the stare and like just realizing your body and that you're actually in it. Cause sometimes it's just like go, go, go. And we do a lot about biosensory. So hey, feel your heartbeat. Do you know you actually got it? Like that beating. Have you ever felt it? Have you felt it lately? Like just to take that time to pause. And so that's really, really unique. And I really like that. So I'm going to put it up. If anybody has any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment area. Um, and then another thing I want to talk to you about is I know that you're very big on finding, surrounding yourself. I say the sphere of influence. Always, it's a sad joke, but it's a joke. If you're around non-broke people, you got to be the 10th one. So
Right.
you surround yourself with top people and keeping that mindset. And how important is that?
Wow. It is the most vital thing that you could ever you ever want to put on the radar of yourself. I mean, oh gosh, it's if you think of it like back in school, like your friends in school or your friends in the neighborhood, you guys didn't have a choice really. And actually, you couldn't be and again, this could be a different topic about relationships within your family. You couldn't choose your family unless, well, you really couldn't choose. And so, with all that, when you come out, like go to college, I think that's kind of when you start finding those associations. You're not used to it, but it's vital because think of it as you being a glass of water or a drop of water, and you have a group of people that you're around that's poison or it's dirt, like dirt water. Your drop of water is not going to influence anything with that water or that toxic waste. And on the other side, if you're that type of person who has, if you're a drop of dirt and you drop yourself in a glass of pure like pool water or ocean water, your drop will be purified so quickly. So I think it's very vital that you need to surround yourself around other people. But sometimes you're like the crab in a bucket that don't realize that you don't have your purpose because you thought your purpose was to try to like climb to get dragged back down. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And you're not the type that is supposed to escape the bucket because if you're stuck in a bucket, you're probably going to be dinner, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't know that. And so, yeah, I think that's very important.
Yeah, we call that the boiling frog, where if you, and I hate the analogy, but if you put a frog in hot water, it will jump out. But if you slowly boil it, it will stay in. And that's so true, though, that your severe,
Mhm.
we call it your climate or your culture, a lot of people don't know that they put themselves in there. And for me, it took a lot for me because I had built relationships and I didn't want to feel like I was being selfish, but at the other point, I knew whenever it was time for me to leave and to be able to go to another area. So that's just something I think that's extremely important to make sure that people know what and who you surround yourself with makes all the difference. And again, if you're the nine, if you're around nine broke people, you're gonna be the 10th one. If you're around who you are around is who you will be like. And who are some top people that you like influencers, I would say, almost say, or um, motivational speakers that you would recommend as well?
Wow. Gosh, top speakers. Actually, there's one so far, and I'll list the rest of them. But there's one that's actually two of them that hit the top of my radar, probably on familiarity if you're in the industries. But um, one would be if you've heard of Tony Robbins. Not a lot of people know that Tony actually has a son named Jarek, and is Jairek, Jarek Robbins. He just recently got married. Jarek Robbins is easily accessible, and he's literally the byproduct of Tony Robbins and is the next coming of Tony Robbins, but is most easily accessible on Instagram or through speaking engagements. Definitely a guy who focuses on relationships. And of course, influencers don't have to, or mentors don't have to be people live. And there's also Peter Maluk, Mallouk. Peter Mallouk is a fiduciary, runs a company called Creative Planning. Definitely one of the top wealth advisors in the nation in the last 5 or 6 years, but definitely helped influence the book called Unshakable, which is a book on, it's like a guide for investing as a just a typical consumer. There's a young lady named Frances who she actually has been one of, and her husband Tony have been big influencers of my life, and actually they're the ones who started the message customize your life. They embodied the message as they were going through their entrepreneur journey, to the fact that when they both retired from their jobs, at Francis at 23 years old and Tony at 28 years old, respectively. So they run a really really cool community where it focuses on people making better decisions for life. Um, my best friends, Vince and April, I used to live in their neighborhood back in Augusta, Georgia. Known them for now 26 years, so 35. So since I was 9 years old, so kind of like second parents who influenced me a lot in the spiritual side of things and in the relationships, because they've been married over 30 years. And guys, there's others like John Maxwell and Jim Quick. Who else? Tom Bilyeu, Gabby Bernstein, Brene Brown, um, Marie Forleo. Gosh, there's countless people, but those are some of the people off the top of my head I really look up to who have influenced my decisions on a daily basis.
Well, that is awesome. And I appreciate that, because that's the thing, is that for me, I love to hear recommendations, and some of those I actually have not heard. So I know for me, I'm going to go after this and check them out. But with that, I know that we're at 20 minutes, where we like to stay out a little bit. So I don't see any comments. And I'm hoping we don't have any technical errors on here. But if we do, we will also put out the recording of this as well, because this is such great content. You are amazing, and I am so grateful for you, your insight, your ability to speak life. And that's what this is all about, spreading life, surviving quarantine by spreading life. And you fill people's buckets up. You fill my bucket up. And I'm grateful for you for that. So with that, I just want to say thank you, and thank you for everybody that watched as well. We hope that you have an awesome and blessed day.